welcome back. And we're moving into our second segment for today, focusing on men's health. And today we have with us, representing the Belize Gastroenterology and Endoscopy Center, Dr. Irvin Gabourel and Dr. Guillermo Espinoza. Good morning and welcome.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you for being here. You know, we're fresh off Cancer Awareness Month, and I think, you know, we can never miss an opportunity to be able to focus on the different health and risk factors that we see in our country, and also how we can educate people more on these issues. So I want to start off with you, Dr. Gabourel, as a gastroenterologist, just talking about some of the common issues that you see in Belize, especially when it comes to men.
Okay, to men, well, first of all, thank you very much for this information opportunity, because there is not enough out there, I think, and I applaud you for the effort that you do, because we still have patients coming to our clinics with advanced cancer when that shouldn't be. In this day and age of disseminated information, we have media, social media that you can reach out to, Google, everything else. We are almost all day on our computers, and we're still having people coming to our clinics with advanced cancer. In particularly here, I would be speaking of colon cancer. So again, thank you very much for the opportunity. And I know March was Cancer Awareness Month.
Yeah, May.
May, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, March.
That's how far we are in the year. Yeah. That's
so, our staff just had the walk. We supported the Cancer Society on that walk, and we do it yearly. So colon cancer is a very lethal disease, but also preventable. It starts in the colon, in the lining of the colon. The colon is that tubular structure that measures approximately 5 to 6 feet, and it's called colorectal cancer because the bowel is divided into the colon and the rectum, which is the last part of the colon itself. At age 50, you have little lesions arising, okay? And these lesions can be detected by a procedure called colonoscopy. And so a colonoscopy basically is a benign procedure that you can undergo, and it's usually done under sedation, because most people are afraid of doing a colonoscopy because it entails pain. That's a myth. And in due fairness too, a lot of these patients who claim that is because they've been to places where these colonoscopies or these screenings were done without sedation.
Let me jump in here, because I think you are so right. In Belize, it is always, I think, one of the disheartening facts when we look at the top cancers that affect us is that some are completely preventable, when we talk about even the ones that affect women. And secondly, they're very treatable as well. So the cancers that are killing us aren't the kinds that are very hard to be able to detect early and treat and survive. Colon cancer being one, and even prostate cancer as well. Now, across the world, the challenge is getting men to access healthcare, and it's for some of the acute illnesses and some of the more severe ones. From your experience, have you been seeing a shift in men seeking out healthcare, and is it a scenario where they go when things are already a little bit are already critical?
Well, sadly, most of them come when something is wrong. The ones that do come, I usually see them walking in with a sour face, and then behind them is this wife smiling. I got him to come. So that's the norm. But I must say, little by little, throughout the years, I see men coming in and say, look, I am due for my colonoscopy, or I have heard that this is one of the tests I must take. So the recommended screening process by the American College of Gastroenterology is that by the age 50, you should be doing your first screening.
Men and women?
Men and women, because this is a disease that is more A little slightly higher in men, but women are not exempt from it. The reason why we detect it more in women is that you women are more open to come and get your checks. So
we have more encounters with the healthcare system.
Yeah. So 50 was like the golden age. The last publishing that the New England Journal of Medicine did right here in March was showing that colon cancer is in the increase in the millennials, people who were born in the 90s. So now we're seeing a shift in that paradigm of patients being detected at 50. Now we're seeing that patients are getting detected at age 20 and 30, which is regressing. All that advancement that we've done, you know, from the 1800s to now, we're seeing that there's a reversal in that. So I think we will have to change the guidelines.
What are the risk factors associated with colon cancer?
Well, there are many.
Yeah.
Some of them are genetics.
Yeah.
If you have a genetic predisposition where one or two of your close relatives, a sibling, a parent, had colon cancer, then the chances of you having colon cancer also increases. And then you have your environmental factors, the type of diet you eat, your lifestyle, lack of exercise, and the recent trend in these patients that are in their 20s and 30s seems to be directly related with the increase of obesity worldwide. And Belize is no stranger to that. If you look around, obesity is very prevalent in our society. So that obesity goes hand in hand with the arising of colon cancer in younger patients. So that's a big, that will be my number one cry out here today, to make everybody aware. So if you have these young patients having abdominal crampings, blood in the stool, which a lot of the times when they go to the doctors, these symptoms are enmasqueraded or diagnosed as irritable bowel syndrome, which is the most common cause of these diseases at that age. But now statistics have been showing that it is because of colon cancer, and that's where screening is very important.
Is there a specific ingredient in our diet that perhaps is contributing to, or perhaps we don't eat enough of, that is contributing to colon cancer?
Well, colon cancer, I would say, if you go back in history, is started to arise when our diet habits started to change, when we started eating more refined foods and we tended to stay away from more natural foods like veggies and greens, and we changed that for the everlasting hamburger, or we went into the red meats, you know, or processed meats, as opposed to freshly greens and vegetables. So yes, there's that shift that we've been going from processed foods or from natural foods to processed foods. And if you add to that drinking, smoking, less exercise because of our daily lives, you know, most of us spend more than 8 hours sitting in front of a desk. I'm sure most of us do not do exercise on a regular basis. I'm guilty as charged, and we should be doing more. So if I, as a medical provider, know this and I am not doing it, what you think of the rest of the population? So we have to make a conscious effort to go there and move forward.
I want to come back to the screening in a bit, but I want to get Dr. Guillermo in here to talk a bit. Obviously, urology is very much a needed professional within Belize, I should say that much. And we have spoken about colon cancer being one of the predominant cancers that affect men, but also prostate cancer is one, and that's one of the areas you specialize in. Let's talk about of the reasons or what your experience is in men coming in for prostate cancer screenings.
Okay, the prostate cancer is very important disease to know, because is the second cause of death in men in US. Is the 5th cause of death in all the people in US. And the problem with the patient that have cancer of prostate, it's the knowledge to know about this disease, right? Sometimes there is a cultural things. There are cultural things, machismo, okay, machismo, right? And there are many factors, but the main factors are the.
Yeah. Now, I mean, I've done stories on this. One of the biggest challenges is that not only do men not want to access healthcare, but men are very concerned about the screening process for prostate cancer.
Exactly.
And what a lot of people don't know is that the digital rectal exam, which is part of the screening, is one of the screening processes. There's also a blood test.
Yes, but usually we do 3 kind of tests. One is the ultrasound, the second is the blood test, and the third is the digital rectal examination. These 3 factors are very important to do. Not only with a blood test or the digital rectal examination. No. Have to be the 3 factors.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, what are the risk factors associated with prostate cancer? What age should you start checking to ensure that you do not have prostate cancer or any problems with your prostate?
Okay. The prostate, it's recent studies, they say genetical disease. So if the men have 40 years and have history of cancer, dads, uncles, they have to start to check the prostate at the 40 years. If the man don't have history of cancer, he needs to start at 45 years. Okay.
To go in and just get checked. That's
Exactly.
it.
Exactly. The problem with the cancer prostate, it's they don't have symptoms. They don't have symptoms. That's the problem.
And a part of it is, we were showing some images, the location of the prostate itself. It's not something that you would perhaps feel an obstruction of any sort.
Well, depends. Depends because it's a specific area of the body, right? And we need to check the patients every 6 months or every year because we don't know where exactly part of the prostate is the tumor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, again, I say this is one of the treatable cancers. Why is it that we see such high death rates from prostate cancer, understanding the fact that it is treatable?
Okay. Depends on what stage we're going to find this cancer.
Yeah.
If we find the cancer in the early stage, they have cure. They have cure in the early stage. The problem is the patient don't have symptoms. So when the patient have back pain or problems to urine, it's because the tumor it's
Advanced.
more. Yes, exactly. It's advanced more than the prostate. Takes few organs around the prostates, and they don't have cure. Just palliative treatments.
Yeah. So they wait too long to go get it checked.
Exactly.
So we're talking 40 if you have a history of cancer,
Exactly.
or 45 you go in and you get a prostate screening test.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now we said that 50 for colon screening, and as you pointed out, the colonoscopy is the preferred method.
That's the gold standard.
Yeah. Why is that?
Because we've seen over and over patients who do ultrasounds. They can do an X-ray with barium enema, called a barium enema. We've seen patients who have done CT scans, and these tests, even though they may be helpful at times, and we've seen it in live cases where these are all shown normal, and then when you do a colonoscopy, that's where we find the cancer. So these tests are helpful, but this is why we call it the gold standard test, is a colonoscopy. And basically a colonoscopy is a very benign procedure whereby the patient is sedated, put to sleep for a very short time, anywhere between 5 to 15 minutes. And then there's a tube that has a camera on the end of it with a lighting that's connected to a computer, and then you visually examine. It's like traveling through the whole entire colon. Now with that, we would be able to pick up from the smallest lesions, which measure in size, millimeter in sizes, to centimeters, and then we would be able to take, if they're small enough, we would be able to remove them all together. If they're too big, then we take samples to be sent abroad to determine what type of tumor those tumors, because not all tumors in the colon are malignant, some are benign. And so hence the importance of doing a biopsy to do a histological test. So if you have your parent who was diagnosed at 40, it is or a sibling or a close relative, it's always recommended that at that age that your family member was diagnosed, you do it 10 years earlier, because it takes about an average of 10 years for these little polyps or small lesions that look like wart to grow into big deformed masses.
So what are the symptoms that one has to have? Let's say someone is 45. So not quite at the age for the recommended screening, and concerned about whether or not they may have colon cancer. What are some of the symptoms they should be looking for?
Good. So like my colleague here, Guillermo, was saying, most patients won't have any symptoms, but if you constantly are having abdominal pains with cramps, gassiness, if you're passing blood or mucus in the stool, if your bowel movement pattern has changed from where you used to go every morning like clockwork, and actually that changes to every other morning, or it starts to get prolonged like every 3 or 4 days, and that's not normal for you, that should alert you. Losing weight without any plans of being on a diet, abdominal pain, like I said earlier, blood in the stool, so these are things, and most of these symptoms are subtle. You can start feeling tired, you can start to having anemia, low blood count, and not necessarily showing in your stool, because that's what usually brings patients to my clinic. I have blood in the stool. But some of these patients can have anemia, they can have low energy levels, and that's not like them, They say, look, I was not like this. And like I said, it's a subtle process. Yes, of course, if you start feeling a lump in the abdomen, then that should alert you, and then you consult with a physician. So this is why the screening is so important.
So the standard is 50 for men and women?
Yes.
Okay. Unless you have, if you have a prior history, it's before.
Yes.
We always say that when it comes to cancer.
But remember, today's big alert is we've seen that millennials, those who were born in the 90s, there is a rise. In fact, the ones in their 20s, their chances are 2% over what their parents' chances were of acquiring colon cancer, and the ones in their 30s, it's 1% above their parents' chances of having cancer. So that's really alarming. And that apparently has to do a lot with the obesity disease worldwide, So if you're fat and you're having some of these symptoms, I think you should consider seeking medical help.
And going back to prostate cancer, what's your recommendation to people? Is there particular habits or risk factors that predispose a man to prostate cancer?
There are many risk factors. One of the factors is the genetical, like I said. The second is specific with black race people. Okay, the people they don't used to do exercise. They have bad habits. Okay, smoke a lot, drink a lot, and they have to go and check. If they have history, okay, 40 years, all right, and if they don't have history, 45 years. We do a biopsy, prostate biopsy, when we found any change in the prostates, and depends of the biopsy, we will see in what stage is the cancer of the prostate. Usually, we can find prostate cancer from the 50 years and up, okay, in the early stage. But in our history, in our medical history, we found cancer from the 48 years. Okay, that's why it's very important. Okay, here in Belize, we found many patients with cancer of prostate.
Yeah.
We do many biopsies in the clinic.
And in Belize, are you finding people coming early?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Good. Yeah. Now, Dr. Guillermo, how do you allay the fears of those who are still concerned about coming in for a prostate screening? What would you say to them?
Okay, the prostate cancer, it's a serious problem.
Yeah.
It's a slow cancer, yes, but it's cancer. My recommendation for the patient is to come and check even if they don't have any symptoms. If they have 45 years, okay, they have to go and check with these 3 factors. PSA, blood test, ultrasound, and digital rectal examination. Once a year if they don't have risk, or once every 6 months if they have risk.
Okay.
It's a safe procedure, okay?
So, obviously, you're 2 male doctors here. I'd love to have you have the opportunity to speak to the men in this country about the importance of being screened for cancer. As I said before, globally it's an issue that men don't access health care early enough, and that's why we tend to see higher rates of them dying as a result of chronic diseases. So what would you say? You have to interact with your male patients. What do you tell them about just going for the tests?
Because that's the one they fear the
Yeah,
most.
I know. Yeah.
No,
And it's not a painful procedure,
No,
I would
it's-
imagine.
no, it's not a painful.
Yeah.
No, they don't feel pain. It's a quick procedure, okay? And they have to know the importance
Yeah.
of to do this procedure,
Yeah.
okay? Because it's very important to do it.
Well, you know, to allay their fears, since we work in conjunction, almost hand in hand, we've had these patients who are very reluctant to come in because they said, look, doc, I've been taking care of this part of my body for all these years, and I won't let you at this time of my life to poke something up me, right? So I said, rest assured, you won't feel anything. So we've come to an agreement with Dr. Guillermo that, okay, we'll sedate you, we'll put you to sleep, so you won't feel anything. And you know what? We get good responses.
Okay.
So before their colonoscopy, Dr. Guillermo, the urologist, would come and do the digital rectal exam,
Yeah.
and then I would do my colonoscopy. And
Makes
if he's
sense.
not there, I do it myself. If
Yeah.
I detect an abnormality, then I tell him, you need to go see Dr. Guillermo. So it's been working
Yeah.
pretty nicely for us in that area.
That's a pretty good combination because then they won't be able to recall and the
You-
fears aren't
you
there.
reassure them.
And go ahead.
Because it's not a nice thing. I mean, I confess I've had my digital rectal exam, and I can understand why men are more, reluctant to go in.
But it's not painful.
It's very
uncomfortable.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yes. I can recall Dr. Garbot, may God rest his soul. He says that all the men used to come to him and he said, "Let me see your finger, doc. Let me see your finger." He said, "Don't worry about my finger size. You should see the long hose Dr. Gabourel has." So I said, "No, that was just a joke." But really, indeed, it's a life-saving procedure. And I don't think you should be embarrassed. It would be more embarrassing for you to die of something that
could have been treated.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I see that perspective. Honorable Michael Finnegan, who is a cancer survivor, always speaks about just being comfortable enough to go in and get the test done, which is simple, fast. It isn't something that requires any kind of recovery time. It's just an uncomfortable procedure, but it is the best way to detect any changes in the prostate, more than blood, more than ultrasound.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
It's cultural. In Belize, I'll share this with my audience or with the audience that let me examine your abdomen. So a Belizean will come and barely wants to open up his abdomen, to show his belly. Not so with an American. You ask them, please, I'm going to examine you. And so you turn around, and by the time you spin around, they're butt naked, And I said, wait. Then I am embarrassed. So it's cultural, and
Maybe
I
you
think
need
we
to
have to
set
get
up a
away.
beach location because people are okay being less clothed on the beach. I'm just kidding, but this is
Yeah.
a serious issue, you know, and I really appreciate you stopping in just to remind the men of Belize that we are at risk. As you point out, prostate cancer, people of African descent are at a higher risk of prostate cancer. Colon cancer continues to be, colorectal cancer continues to be one of the leading cancers affecting people in Belize, men and women.
Yes. And may I add that rectal cancer is more so on the rise than colon cancer, HPV,
Okay.
and our sexual changes, you know.
Yeah.
So contact of the HPV with the anal region has now increased the number of cases we're picking up. So it's something very interesting. There's a shift in I don't know, practices, I would say. And so this is why it's so important that they come in and check, because all these things are treatable and preventable.
All right. So once again, if you have a history of cancer at 40, you will go in for your prostate screening.
Exactly.
45 if you don't, and 50 is this original standard for colonoscopy or colon screening. But definitely, if you have any symptoms, it is not unlikely that younger people have cancer, colon cancer. So go in early.
Yeah, so that paradigm will shift.
Yeah.
Actually, they're in discussions of that because
Of
the
changing the
data
age,
has,
yeah.
yes. People from their 20s, the millennials that we're called, are now showing more colon cancer than the actual patients at 50. So that's tremendous.
Well, the
That
diet
will-
has changed radically, and I think,
Yes.
you know, one of the things I know that we haven't spoke about, but what is a good diet to be able to help to prevent some of these? I know fiber, for example, is always
Fiber.
good when you're talking about digestive systems.
I would say keep away from as much carbohydrates as possible and fried foods.
You really want to tell Belizeans don't eat rice?
Yes, I can tell them. I can tell them they can eat rice, but the portions are very important
There you
because
go.
I think most of us associate. Whenever I say you must go on a diet, everybody conceives a diet not eating, you know, and that's a wrong concept.
Or rabbit food, as they call it.
Rabbit food. Well, you know, I see more patients. I have my family. They're going into this vegan or vegan style thing, which is hard initially, but there are some benefits to it. So we must stay away from the fatty foods, our nice pigtails and some. If you want to eat it once a month. I mean,
Salty
you know.
food.
Salty?
Salty foods, soft drinks, they're the number one. I see more people walking around with soft drinks and with water. Correct me if I'm wrong. So I would say your plates should look greener than whiter. Like avoid pastas, the white things like potatoes, rice, you know.
Right.
I'm not a dietitian, but I think those are basic, commonsensical recommendations.
All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you for stopping in today. Of course, you are from the Gastroenterology and Endoscopy Center here on Blue Marlin
Drive.
All right, and you pointed out that you can do both screenings in one. Is there a package deal or?
Yep, we usually recommend, you know, when you're doing that, it's easier because once we put it to sleep, we don't have to put it to sleep twice. So yes, there is a package deal, and we do recommend people to come in.
And the cost?
The cost is very affordable. Actually, I would put it this way. The cost is more affordable than traveling to any of the regional countries. Because you don't have to, people think, oh, I'll go to Merida, but they don't factor in the travel, the accommodations, you have to eat, you understand?
The time off
The
from
time
work.
off from work. And so I see a gradual change in the Belizean mentality. You see, what happens is something cultural. Some of our doctors in Belize are still getting their glory by referring people abroad. But what they don't realize is that when you do that recommendation, you put patients under a lot of stress. And this is why we have people like Dr. Guillermo, who has been coming to Belize for the past 5 years, and his private practice has grown because he's a good doctor. He's taking care of a lot of patients that if we didn't have that service here, would otherwise have to travel abroad. So we want to keep people at home, and then you have you have your family unit around you to support you, to be there for you. So
Okay.
More and more people are staying at home, and they want to stay at home.
Okay.
I think Dr. Guillermo was going to mention something about our laser machine that we're getting pretty soon into the into the clinic for these patients.
Okay.
Exactly. Our laser machine is coming soon to the clinic to give a best treatment for this kind of patients, to remove prostate with cancer. Right now we have communication with few doctors in Houston. We are 3 urologists right now. It's Dr. Victor Lizarraga Jr., Dr. Miranda and me. Okay, so
we do have
new
3
technology coming. Yeah.
new technology. We have 3 urologists in-house, and even though they may not be here, they do a rotational. So they're here 1 week out of every month, which is very
So you'll
convenient
always be
for
able to
most.
access
Exactly.
the specialist.
A specialist.
Exactly.
So
Well, thank you for stopping in, and we hope that we've convinced a few more men to go ahead and get their cancer screenings, right?
yes, we're hoping so. Because it's very important. I mean, men are the head of the homes, even though the women, we like to say we are the men, we are the leaders, but women are the leaders, but we are the...
You have an important role in
Yes,
your household.
exactly.
Yeah.
yes. So, you know, if you lose that paternal figure, the ship doesn't move forward as it should. Many of them are breadwinners. So if a disease affects you, it disrupts the whole family unit. So
Yeah, it's not doing it for you, it's doing it for your family as well.
Right.
So thank you once again for coming in. And we hope that people will take advantage of being able to get double these screenings done and visit you at the Gastroenterology Center. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And
All right, we're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we'll be talking to representatives of the Girl Guides Association, so stay tuned.